Welcome back after lunch. My name is Roland Klemann. I lead the European service provider practice of Cisco's strategic consulting arm, the Internet Business Consulting Group. And while you're all digesting your lunch, I'll try to get you excited on big data, what's in for service providers. If I don't arrive in doing that, we have a white paper out, so if you're snoozing out, please pick it up on the Cisco table. But I'll try to talk to you about a number of things. First of all, how big data will unfold, how we see the industry unrolling. Secondly, what the roles and opportunities are in big data, and the role that communication networks can play here. And then finally, what that means for network-based service providers. We believe that big data will unfold in three waves. And at each wave, you can describe that on three levels. So on the data plane, which means you look at the sources of data, where is it coming from? Secondly, on the control plane, so we look at how data is being used and what is being done with it. And thirdly, on the consumer plane, that we look at the customer relationship to the data. And bear in mind that the consumer is often the creator of the data and only sometimes the owner of the data. So today, most industries, and also the service provider industry, are in wave one. Wave one, the data is siloed within a particular business unit. The data use is primarily for ex post reports, so you don't act on it proactively. And as for the consumers, they have little control over their data or even awareness of their data. And that may lead to that vague feeling that someone is doing messy stuff with my data. In wave two, the data can move across the individual silos within an industry. And any insights that are created are resulting in action. For example, you send a customer a coupon offer or anything else in production. And the customers can determine with opt-in or opt-out options how their data is being used. And then the brave new world of big data, the wave three, is that data is collected, shared, and processed across an entire ecosystem. And the enterprises can leverage not only their own data, but also things from third parties, like weather patterns, like economic indicators, like retail sales or social media elements. And at this stage, you will try to have real-time or near real-time capabilities to sense the data, so to sense events before they happen. Actions are automated, and in wave three, the customer sets policies for the use of his or her data and trusts that these policies get enforced by the whole big data ecosystem. With the transition from wave one to wave three, of course, the rewards get bigger, but obviously the obstacles to make it happen are also getting bigger. And it's increasingly difficult to realize that potential. So how can we tap into this brave new data world? Let's look at two sets of players. The data originators, people and enterprises are both originators and beneficiaries of data. It's estimated that 75% of the information is generated by individuals, but that enterprises have liability at some point of time of probably 80% of the information. So the data originators, they want to take control of the data. They create it, they want to have knowledge what is being done with it, they want to exploit it in new business models. And on the other hand, the beneficiaries of data, be it individuals or the government or enterprises, need to provide value with it. And the problem is, as things stand right now, there's a big void in the middle and the whole link is broken. You try to connect 7 billion data originators with maybe 7 billion beneficiaries, and if you do that on an end-to-end relationship, it's getting increasingly messy and complex. If you look at what happened in other complex ecosystems like GSM roamings or electronic health or financial transaction clearing, there have been intermediaries that have arisen to link the ecosystems, players like TransUnion in banking or Rossiternet in supply chain management. And they have taken on an intermediary role. enter the data intermediary. We believe that a new class of players, the data intermediaries, will come to the big data ecosystem and they will harmonize, realize, and monetize the potential of big data. So they will tie the data originators with the data beneficiaries. On the one hand, their role is to protect the data originators and empower them to take control of their data. And on the other side, they shall enable the beneficiaries to provide value with the data. So maybe the next question is, what exactly is it that a data intermediary would do? We think a data intermediary has 4 roles to enable a viable big data ecosystem. First, federation. Data needs to be taken from one place where it's created to another place where it has value. And today there's no such marketplace. So you need to locate where are the sources of data, you need to standardize, you need to work out the legal deals and the business deals for it, and you clean and standardize the data and form it so that it can be used later. And from the consumer's perspective, data that is stored for example, by Facebook can be taken and transported to another player like MySpace without having to be recreated each time. Secondly, innovation. So a lot of organizations are currently challenged to experiment with large amounts of data. And the data intermediaries can enable them to do that much more easier than they do today by refining the data from multiple sources and by providing enablers such as identity management, for example. The third element is trust. You can protect the data from sabotage and assure both the customer and the government agencies that the data is being used properly. So, as we all know, the privacy issue looms large, and the intermediary could ensure that Google's data is not perceived as destructive, but rather as something that can add value. And the fourth element is scale. As big data is one thing that is big, it's pretty clear that the price of handling big data will be prohibitive for many organizations. So here, third-party services can come in and do the heavy lifting. And the data intermediary would then organize the data under a common cloud infrastructure and offer more scalable and economic methods of storage and processing. Maybe the Apples, the Amazons, the Facebooks will create their own infrastructures, but if you move beyond the top 5 or 10 players, there is clearly the need for someone to assemble that scale. The next question is, if that is what a data intermediary does, who is in a position to do it? And we believe a lot of players can step up here. It could be IT companies, it could be banks, it could be Web 2.0 companies, it could be government-sponsored agencies or startups, and so can service providers. And the next question is, why should service providers have a right to win in that space? There are few things that service providers do really well. Think operation of large-scale infrastructure. Think trust in some countries as a former government entity. Think the relationships that service providers have with enterprises. And in other areas, service providers are much more challenged. Think innovation or speed to market. But the biggest asset that service providers have is that they own, operate, and view their networks. The networks that connect various data domains. And speaking about data domains, this is happening on 3 levels. There's the public internet that gives the data on people's personal preferences and interests and the applications that they use. And the same people will use private or corporate internets, business applications across various sectors. And finally, there's the Internet of Things that connects not only the consumer devices, but also everything from traffic lights to trains. And it's the network that connects these domains and facilitates the data exchange between these different domains. If, for example, you want to understand the movement of a person and her personal devices, you ideally connect the 3 domains. You understand on the public internet where her friends are. The corporate network may give you the location of her customers and the customers she wants to visit throughout the day. And finally, the Internet of Things may tell you where her smartphone and her car are. And if you link all this information together, you may provide very, very interesting use cases. And that can only be done by the network. Data is being collected everywhere, but the network is always in the middle of it. And it's able to see and correlate patterns and add context and also take actions. So the network can set the context through elements like location or identity or presence. And the network can also take action through specific control points in terms of policy. So it's easy to see how the storage and transport infrastructures that service providers run can be for big data. Players who see far and wide across the networks and across the data centers, collecting and controlling data, will be in the best position to link big data players in a smoothly functioning whole. If we believe service providers have a role to play in big data through networks, the question is, how should this role look like? We have clustered that in 4 quadrants. And as you can see, you can either use big data for internal purposes or on the external scale. And you can either be really tactical or rather strategic in their response. And we've researched that, and we've talked to quite some service providers around the world. Most service providers today are entrenched in square one. And this is a good place to be, experimenting selectively with big data for individual siloed applications like pricing or like CRM. And most service providers want to get from 1 to 2. They say, well, we want to be more proactive. We use the data still for internal purposes only, but we want to go across domains. We want to create a holistic view of the customer and allow proactive resolution of customer complaints through data analysis. Some of the operators think externally as well. So they want to move to quadrant 3 and monetize their capabilities and sell their data to another party, get transactional revenue for their services. And finally, you have a selected few who say, well, I want to become such an intermediary. I want to take on some of the roles that an intermediary provides: trust, federation, scale, and contribute to remove industry barriers and bridge the domains with other industries. To give you some perspective, the longer-term value that's associated with playing this data intermediary role presents maybe 10 to 15% of the total SP industry revenue right now. So yes, service providers do have a right to win with big data. If they choose to take on the heart of big data, it will be a complement and not a substitute to their existing business model. But I think service providers will play an essential role in linking the big data ecosystem together. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Let's thank Roland.